Hello, and I know it's been a while, but that's another story. Here we are back again with an audience booked by, and today I'm absolutely thrilled beyond belief to be joined by psychotherapist and best-selling author of this book, Women Are Angry, Jennifer Cox. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for
Thank
having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Oh, you are so welcome. You really are. And we had a little chat last week just as a meet and greet and a get to know you session. So I wonder, before we get into the nitty-gritty, if you could give us an idea of how this book came into being.
I've been wrestling with my feelings at, at work with my patients for a few years before I really kind of began to put my finger on what it was that I was feeling. Because there was this sort of shared theme that seemed to have become established among all manner of really diverse women patients that I see in my practice. So it's in the middle of London, it's international. These women are from a huge array of backgrounds, racially, culturally, in terms of their sexuality, in terms of their professions, their backgrounds, their class. It's a really, really wide um, sample size. And I was struck for ever since I went into private practice, because I had formerly worked with mostly male offenders in kind of forensic settings. And when I went into private work, I thought, oh, this is going to be lovely. And it was mostly women that came to see me because, as we know, men aren't typically great at seeking out therapy. Um, and I was struck by how similar the feelings were that were coming into the room, as had been the case when I was working with very often aggressive, violent men. So these women would come presenting with all sorts of problems, from physical symptoms, migraines, stomach issues, musculoskeletal pain, even autoimmune diseases, as well as anxiety, depression, OCD, you name it, all the kind of obvious things you would go and see a therapist for,
Mhm.
as well as things like relationship issues. But it was the kind of overriding feeling that really had gotten me questioning what is going on here, because I can't shake it. It's getting under my skin. It's making me feel fearful. And it was only during the pandemic actually that I really kind of put my finger on it, because I myself started to feel it.
Yeah.
And that was anger, just a huge well of unstoppable rage. And once I grasped this, and I was able to kind of put it back to my female patients, do you think it could be that you're actually angry about what's been going on for you, what's going on in your life, how people have been treating you, how you've been brought up, etc., etc.? It was like an epiphany.
I'm feeling it. I am feeling that. I felt it the moment I started reading book. I mean, I've read lots of books of a similar nature, of a feminist nature. But and also there is another book, which I'm sure you're aware of, The Body Keeps the Score.
Yeah,
And we're treating the whole person here.
yes,
It truly is mind, body, spirit. One will have a knock-on effect on the other. So how could it not be something
precisely.
that's, yes.
Yeah. But what we still do, I think, in traditional, Western medicine and in traditional Western psychotherapy is separate them. I don't think there is enough crosstalk. I don't think there is enough understanding or recognition in
Mm.
how we work with patients of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have all this information, and you've talked to your patients, and you've done a bit of self discovery on yourself and how you feel about it. So
Yeah,
what, you start making notes, or how did it come to be that you thought this has to be a book? What was that process?
I think it was that I've always written, like, I've always had to process through writing the
Mm,
kind of the things that I'm sitting with, whether that's clinically, professionally, whether that's, personally. And I just carried on doing that. But I think the form it took was more formal. I just knew that something big was being identified here. And I think I kind of just instinctively started to honor that in that I opened my laptop
yeah,
and I just started to write. And I mean, it was literally like almost between patients. I just have my laptop open all the time.
yeah,
And my mind couldn't stop. Once
yeah.
I'd begun to tap in to these findings, it really just wrote itself. And
Mm,
I can't sort of consciously remember um, how and when I realized this is a
yeah.
book, but
Mm,
I think it didn't take very long. I think I mentioned it to a couple of friends,
mm,
and the way they looked at me, I sort of thought, oh, yeah, you see this too. And obviously, because I can't tell my patients
no,
that that's
no.
what's happening.
Yeah.
That's my business. They don't need that in their minds. But it was once I'd sort of, in a way, gone outside with it and said, I think I might be writing a book.
Mm,
And I'm not the type of person that says things like that,
mm. So
lightly.
I think every now and then in life, if you are intuitive and open to this kind of thing, there is a way of putting your finger on the pulse of what is going on in society,
Yeah.
and a realization that this is not being recognized enough. It's not being responded to. And we're almost walking around in a daze, not realizing what is going on in our minds, in our bodies, that there is this drudge of everyday life. And there are not, many of us that are actually awake to the
No.
realization of what is going on, I think. So, where did it go from there then? Because so you've got this material,
Mm. Mm.
what to do with it? What happened then?
Yeah, well, that was the bit I really didn't know. I I had a strong sense that this was so important and it was such a kind of life hack in a
Mm,
way, especially for women who couldn't afford therapy, that I needed to get it out however I could. So
yeah.
I didn't understand the publishing process. I didn't know anyone in publishing really. I'd never thought about it before. So I just kind of left it sitting on the laptop, but I decided I would hold some kind of face to face in real life groups. This was when COVID had passed,
Mm,
and we were allowed to meet again. I thought, well, I need to do something with my anger, so I'm gonna suggest that other women come and meet and we think about this together. And I called them processing groups, and
mm,
we met just a few times initially, and it was pretty revealing in terms of the stuff that people have been bottling up and the things that the kind of, again, the themes, but the joy of getting women together
mm.
and sitting with it was just kind of
So
magical.
what were you finding was coming out in these meet? I mean, was it an easy thing to articulate, or was it were people having to think about that underlying
It sort of
sense of
it was a mix, because I think some
Mm,
people were really ready to just go and they had a list. Other people, I gave people sort of prompt cards so that they would feel more held by the
mm,
process, and
mm,
that, they had a kind of steering um, option if they wanted it. And I think what kind of came out, so the horrifying tragedy of Sarah Everard had basically just happened. We were all reeling from that. That was a
mm,
big one. Um, the lockdown in general, that
yeah.
that needed some working through, and what
Mm,
women were having to cope with and contend with
yeah.
in a way that I do think was unique. I don't think men were having to step up in the same ways at all.
Mm,
I mean, obviously there would have been exceptions, but in general, what I was seeing, what they were telling me, what my patients had been letting me know, it was
mm,
horrifying, to be honest with you. Um, and I think then there were just the kind of more detailed, there were things going on at work for people that had been of long standing. And then there were the ways that they were being treated in families, so families of origin, so the way they'd been brought up, um, in comparison with their brothers, and what was expected of them in comparison
yeah.
with their brothers.
Yeah.
So I think those were the kind of major
Mm,
points. And what happened after that was, someone, I wasn't on social media, but a friend of mine saw, this Guardian journalist had posted, I want to do an article on women's anger. Uh, does anyone know anything about it? And
this
has
was
anyone?
this was the universe literally
Yeah,
shouting, wasn't it?
it
Yeah.
came knocking.
Yes.
So she said, could she come along to one of the groups? And I said, no, but you could come afterwards, and
Mm,
I'll see if anyone wants to stay. So that was really interesting. I mean, it was kind of gold in terms of what a journalist must have been looking for. It was sort of right on a
it was
plate.
so timely, and
Yeah,
doesn't that actually say something in itself that not just if we talk about the collective consciousness, maybe there was a conspiracy there that this message has to get out somehow.
totally. It was like,
Yeah.
it was almost beyond me at that point.
Mm,
And actually, on the back of that, because I knew it was coming out in the Guardian and there would be a good sort of publicity thing, I said, let's do a scream. Let's go and do a scream together, and we'll put it as a kind of, you know, um, little note at the bottom of the article. And so that's then what happened. We met in
do you
Highgate
mean
Woods.
physically you went and
Yeah,
screamed? Yeah.
we went
So
and had a
what,
giant
you and this other
scream.
person, or a whole group of you,
Whole
or
group, whole group. And because it was advertised in the Guardian, and it
oh,
was
I love
glorious.
that.
It was
That's up there.
absolutely
That's up
glorious.
there with the NHS plate smashing room that you mentioned. We should have more of that, shouldn't we?
We should. We really should. And since then, actually, because obviously I started these little groups kind of everywhere after that. I then held them online because it was difficult for people to be there in person, and because the article had kind of prompted a larger,
Yeah, yeah,
following
yeah.
gathering. So then I carried on doing them monthly online. And I know that there were kind of little split off splinter groups that formed locally for women who would then go and do screams together. So if they lived by the sea, they'd go and scream at the sea.
That's
Or if they
amazing.
lived in the countryside, I mean, it was really, it does feel as if something got started,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and then, so my best friend, then Salima, who I do the podcast with, suggested that we do a podcast, because she said, look, this is a big deal and
Mm.
people want to talk about this.
So the podcast is called
It's
Women
called Women
Are
Are Mad.
Mad, yes, and
Yeah,
that's across Instagram, and you can pick it up, I think, on any of your listening, Spotify, etc. So yeah,
exactly.
so people can access that.
Yeah,
Yes.
so that's easy to listen to. That's free,
Okay.
obviously. Um, and that's why I love podcasts, because they are so sort of democratic. They're just out
Mm.
there and
Yeah.
anyone can tune in.
Yes, it's
And
great. Yeah,
it's really good. And
it
all
is.
these
To
high
make it so
profile women.
accessible. Yeah. Sorry. Yes. Go on.
Yes, it's so important to me. This is the thing, I think.
Mm,
therapy is can be this very inaccessible thing for
mm,
people. It's
mm.
expensive and it's impossible to get on the NHS.
Yeah.
So I wanted to try and find ways of helping women that used my expertise but
Mm,
were free, and sort of set up little strategies for women helping each other.
yeah.
And I think this is where conversation and modeling conversations about things that typically we haven't really been allowed to talk about, I think is really key. So this is where the podcast kicked off, and all these like really well known, high profile women wanted to come and be on it. And so it sort of took off in this way that
Mm.
we can never have imagined. Um, and and I think it was simultaneous to the first couple of episodes of that coming out that I then found an agent, and she worked very quickly to get. She saw the timeliness of it. She saw that there
Mm.
was a kind of I'd started a sort of wave of something, and that we
Yeah.
needed to ride it and kind of establish it. And I have to say that most publishing houses turned it down.
Which you think now, where were their minds at, really? I mean, money, I suppose, being the top answer, but
Yeah.
it's incredible. It's a bit like the Harry Potter series, isn't it? You know, how many
Yes.
rejections did that go through? But thank
Yeah.
goodness. So, what happened after that you were turned down?
Well, so it was interesting actually, because they kept saying she doesn't have enough of a following. She's, come back when she's got more. And I was like, oh, for heaven's sake.
Just
This
want to
is,
say here as well, don't you think it's ironic that that was a reason that was given? It's because it comes right back to identity again. It's
mm,
almost like saying your identity, who you are, is not enough.
yeah, yes, that's a really good point. Yeah. And I think publishers, they need to catch up with what readers are looking for.
Mm,
I have been told since that my book has been seen as a kind of example
mm,
among, like, in the industry of, you don't need you don't need this. You just need to write a book that speaks to people.
yes.
And that actually they've made a lot of mistakes on backing influencers who have all these huge shiny followings, but no one buys their books. So they've sort
It's
of
the
thrown loads of
substance
cash at.
thing. It's
Yes.
about substance and it's about authenticity. And
Mm,
it's not about wanting to be famous.
mm,
I don't think there is that. There will always be that. I think that's what younger people are going after when, this idea of I want to be an influence. Well, what is it you're actually there
yeah,
has to be some substance, some foundation there that speaks to regular people that
I
they
agree.
can understand and take on board. They're talking, that book, that quote, that person is talking about something that happened in my life, or I can relate to that. Otherwise,
Yes.
it's just ether, you know?
Oh,
It's
completely. And I think what I really object to, and obviously I've they kind of make you go on social media once you have a deal. And I think what I find quite grim is just this plowing out of content, and there's so much of it now. And I just think of all the sort of the waste, like this uses energy environmentally, and it's total pap. And it all looks the same. I mean, so I've been on it, I guess, coming up to 2 years. And what I notice is that the few, I don't follow that many people, the few people I do follow are just telling me the same stuff they were telling me last year. And
mm,
it's nonsense. It's sort of flim flam.
yeah, it is. You're absolutely right. I've just joined Substack because
Oh, yeah.
there is a person there that writes the genre of writing I'm interested in. which is creative nonfiction. So I joined it for that purpose. But I also considered posting on there. But I'm already getting, this has only been a few days, and it's already inundating. And you have to think,
Overwhelming. Yeah.
it's a bit like the Tory party. Everybody's jumping ship, aren't they? So,
Yes,
they're moving from this playground to just a fresher look playground, but it's the same old stuff.
it is, I'm afraid. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
anything that's of quality, unfortunately, is being lost in that. So I can't help
Yeah.
thinking that from your point of view, actually not being on social media before you decided to write this book, I think it was a huge benefit
Yeah, so do
because you're
I.
not having to deal with all the noise. Whereas now
Exactly.
there is all
Much
the
harder.
noise in the
Yeah.
mix.
And I'm finding it really inhibiting. I briefly have sort of put myself on Substack sort of since Christmas, thinking, oh, this is a great place to try out ideas, to sort of workshop things. And I've actually kind of stopped posting because it's I find it, I think you give ideas away, to be honest, which is a sort of weird thing for me to say, but I want to be careful about where I put. I want to help people. I don't want people just nicking these thoughts and kind of running off with them and
Yeah.
doing things I don't want done to them. So I
Yes. Yeah.
need to be more careful and protective, I think.
Well, I don't. It's an important point. I don't want us to get too sidetracked by the whole
Mm.
social media playground, but because we're still on this journey. So the book was declined, but then I think two publishers were interested, weren't they?
Yes, exactly. And one of them being the one, Bonnier, I ended up with, who I love, because I just feel there was no sort of question. It was this fabulous editor, senior editor called Michelle Signore, and I think she's at Simon and Schuster now, but she just got it. She
Mm.
absolutely got it straight away and was like, this has to happen.
That's it. I mean, what a gem to find, in a
I was
person
so
that completely
lucky.
understands where you're coming from. So thank goodness that
Yeah.
she
And thank
did.
goodness for all these women now that have benefited, that she saw what
Mm.
what was so important about the message.
Yes, yeah. So let's talk about the message because I've got my eye on the time. We've got maybe about 7 minutes or so, and I know because this will be going out via the Nottingham Writers Studio and other agents. So it's always going to be interesting for them to learn about, the writing
Yeah.
process and publishing. But the message itself, you mentioned it briefly earlier about in personal lives but also in the working life. And I think also about women supporting women. We
Oh
haven't got
yeah.
enough of that.
No, no, we
We're too
haven't.
busy knocking each other down to get to the top of the pile.
Yes, I think that has become clear to me, even more so since kind of going out into the world a bit more. There's a lot of people, women, that would rather you didn't. And
Yeah,
I think it's all part of the same issue, which is that there is a sense of scarcity. I think we grew up feeling as if the world wasn't really ours.
mm,
And it's really, I mean, it's appalling, isn't it? It's so sad. And we're the lucky ones
yeah.
in the UK and in the West. I mean, my God, what
Well,
this looks like elsewhere.
you say it. This was on page 278. I have lots of notes, as you can imagine. We really haven't had our privileges for very long. And it's always the last ones in, those of us
Yeah.
grudgingly granted a token seat at the table, who'll be the most disposable when things get tougher. And that's because you're a woman.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to
Yeah.
what? What are you supposed to be doing? I can't even bring myself to say it, you
Oh
know.
no, what are we supposed to? I mean, I have to say, every week something still is coming up in the news that brings me to that same place I was when I was writing.
Mm,
Because, I mean, last week it was the AI grok stuff, our images. And it was also, I don't know if you heard this, the Diary of a CEO podcast host was in a very sort of faux therapy, curious mindset fashion, asking his guests who had come on about this worrying phenomenon of men, men's loneliness, men not being able to get their genes passed on because women, basically because feminism is ruining women and meaning that they've decided they're not very interested in men that aren't interested in them
Yeah.
and they've had enough. And so this is
Mm.
now also our problem, apparently. They were actually
Right.
saying, could we put in place systems that mean that effectively women are forced to be with these men so that they don't turn into incels and women haters?
Now let me think. What does that remind me of? Oh yes, The Handmaid's Tale. Mm. That's what we're talking about there. But I just can't help feeling sad, and I know we haven't touched on this enough, which means you're going to have to come back because there is so much more to talk about. But it's sad because it's not about bashing men, is it? It's about learning to live in an equal world where you feel that your opinion matters,
Yeah.
that because it's coming from a woman doesn't make it any less, or that it's because it's becoming from a man doesn't make it any less. It's about
Mm.
meeting on an equal plane of respect. And I think there are elements of that happening, but not enough.
No, I agree. And I feel like there are some real, I think we're missing some sort of milestones when we bring up
Mm,
children still. And I do touch on this in the book, but I didn't have the space for it really, when you had to wedge everything else in.
mm,
But I think it is about friendships. I think it
mm,
is about, can we please be each other's friends first and foremost? Can we stop this nonsense of like the divisions in the playground and in
mm,
classrooms where we've got boys on one side, girls on the other? They don't talk to each other, they don't form friendships. And I honestly think that is socially driven. I don't
mm,
think children would make that choice deliberately. I think they see it in their parents. They see that men are friends with men and women are friends with women. They see it in playgrounds. They don't see, if there's ever men there picking up, they don't see the chitty chat with those men to women at school fetes. They don't see men and women standing talking together really. They see groups of men and groups of women. And then this
mm.
is modeled elsewhere. And I don't think we're expecting it to look any different. And I think this is where a lot of it stems from.
I think you're right. I mean, but we're still shedding skin from even the Victorian era
For
in because
sure.
people are living longer,
Yes, that's
and I know
true.
from my
Good
own
point.
point of view that um, I've still heard the phrase, well, he's the man of the house. And to them, that's what it means. It's a patriarchy system
Yeah.
of they're the man of the house. They make all the decisions and they keep things moving, and we just fuss about in the background and make sure the dinner's ready. But
Right.
there is. I think you're right. We are missing a trick. There is so much richness. We are not them and they are not us. But together, you know, if, I'm not sure this is ever going to be achievable. If I'm honest,
Mm,
quite honest, but you
mm.
would like to think that we could at least try that meeting of minds. And I think because it is generational, it is passed down.
Yeah.
It is learned behavior.
It is, though. I agree. It really is. I think my own kids, so I've got boys, and they're late teens now, or one of them's a man, and they have very strong female friendships. I mean, actually, they're more friends with girls than with boys,
Mm,
and my husband as well is, and I think so. He works in TV, and I think maybe that's a more female sort of industry, or certainly the kind of scripted worlds he's worked in have been quite women dominated. He's got loads of women friends, and the boys have seen that, and I think it has been very normalized.
Mm.
And but I think that's not very common, actually.
Yeah, I think so, and we are really getting to time, and I feel like we haven't even scratched the surface. But just from a personal perspective, I can remember being in the workplace and being the one sent to do the photocopying or to, those because the men are in the room. The
Yeah,
men are in the room and they will
too
discuss
important.
this. Yeah, too
Yeah,
important. So it is indeed irritating, and
mm.
it does, when you reflect, you think, how could we have allowed that,
Yeah,
but then children, it comes under, well, who's going to be around for the children, and
yeah,
it's just the way it works out, and you think you're doing the right thing, and you are to some extent, but I think also part of doing the right thing is showing your children a strong female role model as well, but sometimes we just haven't got the energy.
absolutely.
That's
Yes,
what
and we
it
can't
boils
take
down
on another
to,
job.
doesn't it?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And then the amount of items which fall to us anyway, that the thought of trying to initiate another one. Oof.
Yeah, I know. I know. Um, I think that's probably a good place to leave it for now,
Yeah,
but I
we
would
try to go back
absolutely
to bed.
love, we would love to pick up that conversation again, Jennifer, if you're willing, because I think it is
Absolutely.
important. And the more we talk about it, the more it becomes part of the conversation, and it's not considered strange. It just
Yes.
is,
Yeah,
So I
agreed.
think we have to keep getting that message out there. But for now, I would like to say thank you so much because it's been fascinating. I knew when I read this that I wanted to talk to you, and I'm so pleased that you agreed to
Oh,
to this.
such
So
a
thank you for
pleasure.
that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for
Yeah,
asking
so
me.
hopefully we will see Jennifer again because I know I'd certainly like to. Thank you for joining us. I know, as I said earlier, it has been a while. A lot has happened, but that's life. Things get in the way, as we know. But it's good to be back, and I feel like we've started on a really strong platform here today. So my thanks again to Jennifer, and hopefully we'll see you soon next time. Thank you.
Thank you.